America's hot for pot as the cannabis stocks continue to soar. Bob Pisani is at the New York Stock Exchange with all the details. Hi, Bob.
Hello, Melissa. Marijuana stocks have been riding a high lately. Some of the biggest cannabis names are up 60 to 80% in just 8 trading sessions, and average volumes in these names in the last 30 days are up anywhere from 50% to more than 200%. Now, 3 big drivers are behind the rally. First, regulation. Second, deal news. Third, earnings. Canada announced it will legalize the recreational use of marijuana in October, and global companies are all abuzz to get in on that action. That's the main mover. In fact, global spending on legal cannabis is expected to grow from $9.5 billion in 2017 to $32 billion in 2020, up 230%. That's according to BDS Analytics. Now, big-name alcohol companies are looking to pair up with pot firms. So 2 weeks ago, Constellation Brands said it was investing a record $4 billion in Canopy Growth. It will now own roughly 40% of that company. That news lit a fire under other pot stocks like Afria, which is up about 80% since then. That's just one of many booze companies looking to catch a bid from pot growers. Molson Coors, for example, is joining forces with Hydropothecary to create cannabis drinks in Canada. And Diageo is reportedly in talks to make a weed play of its own. Tilray just scored a partnership with Nova Scotia Liquor. Tilray's earnings also lifted the broader pot space today. The company saw revenues nearly double from a year ago. And the Tilray CEO said he thinks we're getting a lot closer to legalizing pot in the U.S. than a lot of people realize. Some say the U.S. market would have the potential to be up to 10 times bigger than Canada. And finally, Google's search interest for the term pot stocks, you know we're going to throw this in, appears to be nearing a peak. Who knows? Pot may be even bigger than Bitcoin was at its height. Back to you, Melissa.
All right, Bob, thanks. Bob Pisani at the NYSE. Well, our resident cannabis king, Tim Seymour, has got the perfect recipe on how to choose the right pot stock for your portfolio. So he's going to go over, he's actually at the Plasma, to break it down in a segment we like to call The More You Know. Tim.
Hey, Mel, and the more you know has never been more important as we talked about this sector, which has been exploding. And I've reminded you that this is a new asset class. Reminds me of investing in emerging markets where you see these massive liquidity flows and market cap that's not that great. So what do I think you should do when assessing the market now? Again, what's the company focus? What I mean by that is what part of the cannabis industry are they in? Are they in production? Are they in medical? Are they in both? Are they in the retail side? Do they just have a flashy storefront in California or New York and no earnings? Do they have the ability to package made players? What are they in if they're a U.S. company, are they in California? Are they in New York? Are they in other legal states? You have to think about the legislative environment. Which strategy, which company focus is the most profitable? You have to assess that. Next, you have to look at the management team. And I really mean corporate governance. So I'm not just talking about companies and how transparent they are at earnings. I'm talking about companies who are aligned with investors. At this point, if you're looking south of $1 billion in the market cap, which is a lot of the investable market cap right now, you have a lot of companies that are made up of multiple deals, convertible bond deals, ultimately cross-ownership holdings. I know it's difficult to sort through that, but you have to get the alignment of interests and where investors may be the last to be able to cash out. Finally, on valuation, we talk about this all the time because that's what most people know. How do you value cannabis stocks? Ultimately, it's some combination of a discounted cash flow model, DCF, and a price to sales, and that gives you a place to assess these companies. So let's talk about ultimately which ones look good, which maybe has one that looks good here now and one which looks bad. So do we want to say yes or no? Ultimately, there's 2 stocks we could bring up right now to talk about. And we can bring them up right here. I want to talk about CanTrust, which is a $1 billion market cap, trades in Toronto and trades in the pink sheets here, and Kronos Group, which you know trades here on the NASDAQ. Ultimately, I'm going to say just say yes to CanTrust and just say no to Kronos, and here's why. Here's why no. It's not that this is a bad management team. I like their strategy. The valuation is ridiculous, and because it trades in the U.S., the valuation is even more ridiculous. Those U.S. stocks, like Canopy, like Kronos, have gotten an extra boost from being in the most liquid market in the world. CanTrust, because they trade at roughly 1/3 of what these guys trade at. They have more capacity and funded capacity, and that, to me, on valuation with a very solid management team, at this stage, it hasn't run so much. That, to me, is a way I look at these companies. Back to you.
Anybody have a
quick question? Because I know we're heavy tonight, very heavy show. But we sort of brought this up last night. Tilray reported yesterday $9.5 million in revenues.
Yep.
They're closing in now on a $6 billion company. Is that how ridiculous things are? Are they just going to basically grow into that valuation?
Yeah, look, I think that valuation is very tough to trade out of, even with international opportunities, which doesn't mean that they won't. And it doesn't mean that, obviously, you have to assume that this marketplace is a global one for Tilray. But again, first U.S. IPO, a lot of froth in the space right now. Great management team, great strategy, great backers, but not a name I'd be buying today.
Time to vote. Buying or selling Tim's hot pick Can Trust. Pete Najarian, what do you say?
I'm buying. I'm buying what Tim's talking about with Can't Trust. And I like the Canadian side of this thing, Tim. And I think there's a lot of different reasons right now why the U.S. stocks are in front of that. But I like that name a lot.
Dan.
Yeah, I can trust Tim here because I know he's been doing a lot of work in vetting these companies. I think the most interesting thing to me about it is if U.S. Federal approval comes sooner than later, that it could be 10 times the market of Canada.
At least.
That sounds interesting.
At least.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, in Match Game 74, I love the show. Charles Nelson Riley, he was the last guy, and everyone he always messed the game up.
Did you just say we were heavy? You speed it up.
And I messed the game up. I said cannabis GWPH, Mel. I didn't give either one, but if I'm in the cannabis space, I power pitched it.
Voting for Tim.
So that's
I
what I'm
like
going.
that.
All right, two buys and
I
another.
don't know what.
Two buys and another here on the desk.